And welcome to Hannity. We begin tonight with this Fox News alert. We have major breaking news at this hour out of Afghanistan. According to a phone call just obtained by Reuters from July, President Biden warning the Afghan President Ghani, you know, the guy that fled with all that money, that the fight against the Taliban was, quote, not going well and that he needed to change the perception, and, quote, there is a need, whether it's true or not, to project a different picture. In other words, in July, Biden knew things were going bad, going south. The intel community, and we have been reporting this, has been correct from day one. That's why the CIA left 6-7 weeks earlier. But instead of stopping the Taliban and stopping a withdrawal and protecting our interests, Joe Biden was only worried about optics, projecting a different picture. This is a disgrace, because what that means is Joe Biden knew that it wasn't working and was getting dangerous, and he didn't expedite the withdrawal at a point in time when he could have done it safely and not leave Americans behind enemy lines and our Afghan allies to be murdered, and they will be. Every American tonight should be furious. To be blunt, we don't have a president in the White House. We don't have a real commander-in-chief. We don't have a leader. Instead, we have a dishonest, self-involved, incoherent, mumbling and bumbling, quote, commander-in-chief who firmly believes that he deserves all the credit for getting the United States out of Afghanistan, none of the blame for the disaster of how it went down. 13 dead Americans, that's our national treasure, and many more seriously wounded, and hundreds of dead Afghans. And God only knows how many Americans are left behind enemy lines tonight. Well, basically hostages of the whim of the terrorist organization, the Taliban, to now fend for themselves. Now, the fact that we don't know the exact number, that alone is unforgivable. This was the worst self-inflicted foreign policy disaster in not only modern American history, one of the worst in all of American history. And sadly, the only thing I can report tonight is it is far from over. All of this because of Joe Biden. And now we know he knew. All of it was completely preventable, every bit of it. He did this. But in a speech today, Joe took no responsibility. He offered zero apologies. He patted himself on the back again and again and again. And he took his mission accomplished in a great victory lap. And he provided zero solutions for now the scores of our fellow Americans held hostage, abandoned behind enemy Taliban lines.
And couldn't this have been done in a more orderly manner? I respectfully disagree.
There is not an end to our commitment to American citizens who are in Afghanistan who want to leave.
Never in my lifetime would I ever believe America would have an administration knowingly make a decision to leave Americans behind.
It's not completely unlike the way we do it elsewhere around the world. I mean, we have Americans that get stranded in countries all the time.
The extraordinary success of this mission was due to the incredible skill, bravery, and selfless courage of the United States military and our diplomats and intelligence professionals.
Americans held hostage, abandoned behind enemy lines. Day 17.
Every single American, this is not political, whether you're Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, this should make every American's blood boil. Our fellow Americans now are behind enemy lines and hostage to the whims of the terrorist group, the Taliban. I guess after about 10, 20 cups of coffee today, a very annoyed looking, seemingly wired Joe Biden screaming into the microphone, lecturing us that the evacuation was a tremendous success. In fact, he congratulated himself and said it could not have been done in a more orderly way. Oh, yes, it could. Take a look.
I take responsibility for the decision. Now some say we should have started mass evacuation sooner. And couldn't this have been done in a more orderly manner? I respectfully disagree.
Respectfully, you're dead wrong. You could have done it in April when the Taliban was on the march, May, June, and July when you knew damn well things were falling apart. Wait until later in the show tonight. We will show you exclusive tape of what's really going on in Joe's successful endeavors in Afghanistan. If this was an extraordinary success, how does one define failure? Joe Biden obviously lying, Afghans falling from American airplanes, an airport surrounded by terrorists, Americans and our partners held behind enemy lines, unable to get through, rescued missions conducted by private for-hire security groups and retired military personnel that just cared enough to go get their fellow Americans and Afghan allies because Biden wasn't sending any help. Even the Dutch and the Brits and the French were sending in troopers behind enemy lines to save their people. $83 billion, according to some estimates. The sophisticated U.S. weaponry now in the hands of an evil terrorist organization, all courtesy of Joe Biden, because he didn't prepare, but he knew. Now we know he knew. A massive terror attack killing 13 American servicemen and women, more than 160 innocent civilians. Bagram Air Force Base is now gone. Our U.S. Embassy is gone. We have no diplomatic presence on the ground. We have no military presence on the ground. Our intel sources are being hunted down, and they will be killed one by one. We even left behind not only computer data identifying every Afghan ally in the last 20 years, but we left the biometric scanners. Yeah, they have those too. Look into this right now. Oh, you helped the Americans, you're dead. And now hundreds, maybe more than 1,000 American citizens are trapped behind enemy lines. That's right, stuck at the whims of the Taliban that now hold their fate in their hands. No way out. Their fate now rests with the goodwill and mercy of several terrorist organizations, including the Taliban, including ISIS-K, including al-Qaeda, who are now all emboldened. You know, Joe Biden said, oh, we have all the leverage. You don't have any leverage. Our own Jennifer Griffin reporting, rightly so, that multiple American babies whose parents are green card holders, unable to get past the Taliban to get to the airport. They're trapped behind enemy lines. CNN's Clarissa Ward, who I think did a phenomenal job, talked about a family from Texas, all with U.S. passports, who were also unable to escape. A 3-year-old American boy from Sacramento, California, couldn't also get out, also trapped tonight. And last night, an interview with an American woman named Sarah, who is also desperate to get out herself. You know what? You don't think this could have gone any better, Joe? You don't think that doing this in May, June, July, we show you the map every night. We give you the dates and the time and the quick geographical possession of the Taliban. You knew they were on the march. Now the intel community is releasing information because they're not going to take blame for your mistake. Do you really think anyone's going to buy your lies from today? Do you think we're that dumb? Are you that dumb? This evacuation could not have been any worse, and it's going to get worse. But get this. According to Joe, we're all just overreacting. Americans behind enemy lines, we left them behind, something I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. And I'm overreacting? I don't think so. Take a look.
We believe that about 100 to 200 Americans remain in Afghanistan with some intention to leave. Most of those who remain are dual citizens, longtime residents who had earlier decided to stay because of their family roots in Afghanistan. The bottom line, 90% of Americans in Afghanistan who wanted to leave were able to leave.
He bragged that we got 5,500 Americans out, but what was it? Less than 2 weeks ago, he said, oh, I think there's 10 or 15,000 Americans. We are the United States of America, the most powerful country with the best military on the face of this earth. We don't leave our fellow Americans behind. Not one, not two, not 10%. How would you like it if 10% of your family was trapped in Afghanistan right now, Joe? How would that sit with you? And don't forget, thousands of our Afghan partners are also trapped behind enemy lines. They are being hunted down as we speak by the Taliban, and they will all be executed. And according to the Wall Street Journal, an interpreter that actually rescued Joe Biden and several other senators 13 years ago during a horrible snowstorm in Afghanistan when their helicopter had to be landed. He's now hiding, marked for dead. He had begged Joe to get him out. Joe didn't care. In fact, he refused to take any responsibility at all. According to Joe, the buck does not stop with him in spite of his words that he read off a teleprompter that somebody else clearly wrote and gave him 15 cups of coffee so he could actually stay awake for more than 10 minutes. He blamed the Afghan army, the Afghan government, the Americans trapped behind enemy lines, his own advisors, and then when all else fails, let's just blame Donald Trump for everything. Take a look.
In April, I made a decision to end this war. When the Afghan security forces, after 2 decades of fighting for their country and losing thousands of their own, did not hold on as long as anyone expected. The people of Afghanistan watched their own government collapse and the president flee amid the corruption and malfeasance. Since March, we reached out 19 times to Americans in Afghanistan with multiple warnings and offers to help them leave Afghanistan, all the way back as far as March. My predecessor, the former president, signed an agreement with the Taliban to remove U.S. troops by May the 1st, just months after I was inaugurated. The decision to end the military airlift operations at Kabul airport was based on the unanimous recommendation of my civilian and military advisors.
Stop blaming Trump, and if you want the truth, we'll give you the truth about the Trump deal. Here are the facts. It was a conditional agreement. Before they ever negotiated a thing, Donald Trump warned the Taliban if they didn't follow every dotted I, crossed T, every comma, every period, they would be obliterated. If they broke the rules, they'd be obliterated, just like Baghdadi and associates, just like the al-Qaeda leader that Donald Trump took out in Yemen, just like the Iranian terrorist Soleimani. If they marched on Kabul while Americans were still all over the country, they knew they would be obliterated, just like he did to the caliphate. The Taliban knew this, and for 18 months, that's right, over a year, when Donald Trump, his last year in office, not a single solitary American was killed inside of Afghanistan. So make no mistake, and watch that timeline. We could have gotten out in April, May, June, July, and we didn't do it. And now we know he knew. Now we know he wanted to create a false facade. Under no circumstances would Donald Trump have abandoned Bagram Air Force Base while any American citizen was still inside the country. As a matter of fact, his plan was to keep it in perpetuity. We built it. We owned it. That was what he said to me. Only an idiot would have abandoned that air base. And now Americans, our partners, our Afghan allies, they're all trapped. They're all hostages. They're all caught behind enemy lines. Al-Qaeda and ISIS are on the rise. And the Taliban, that terror organization that participated and was a safe haven in the lead up to the 9/11 attacks, has full control of that country and a massive new stockpile of brand new, the latest, greatest weaponry that Joe Biden gave them. Joe keeps talking about, well, we have leverage and international pressure. We don't have any leverage, Joe, none. Our embassy is gone, our soldiers are gone, and they have Americans behind enemy lines. They would be called hostages, Joe, and pretending that the Taliban care about their standing in the world, well, you're just full of Adam Schiff. They're terrorists, Joe. They let other terrorists from ISIS and al-Qaeda out of prison, Joe. They don't give an Adam Schiff what you and 100 other countries think. They're going door to door as we speak. They're executing political enemies, Afghan army personnel and pilots and musicians and comedians. And make no mistake, anyone with American ties inside of Afghanistan will be a target for murder. So you want to know the grand master plan to rescue Americans now behind enemy lines? Biden is going to use your tax dollars. We have economic leverage. Where I grew up in New York, we kind of call that ransom. Take a look.
You say we're going to work with the Taliban. Does that include the prospect of giving them aid? Well, first of all, we do believe that there is an important dimension of humanitarian assistance that should go directly to the people of Afghanistan. When it comes to our economic and development assistance relationship with the Taliban, that will be about the Taliban's actions. It will be about whether they follow through on their commitments.
Oh, a quid and a pro and a quo with Joe. Oh, that's familiar. Try that, Joe. It's illegal. You should be impeached. Frankly, you're unfit to serve as it is. Apparently, if bribery doesn't work, those who want to get out will be trapped forever. Now, some will be tortured and killed. The world will see it. I hope to God I'm wrong. I don't think I am. Others will live under the constant fear of the Taliban's reign of terror, left behind by a president who once vowed to protect all Americans and leave no one behind for any reason. Take a look.
If there's American citizens left, we're going to stay till we get them all out. This town, this state, this country takes care of our own, leaves nobody behind. Giving everyone a fair shot, leaving nobody behind. That we do take care of our own, that we leave nobody behind. To help everyone in need, look out for one another, leave nobody behind. But we will leave no one behind. It's what America's all about. It's about pulling together, leaving nobody behind. Giving hate no safe harbor, and leaving no one behind. Reweaving that social fabric that holds a society together. Honesty, decency, hope, leaving nobody behind.
Lie after lie after lie. Meaningless words from a spineless, career politician who only cares about himself, if he even knows what day of the week it is. Doesn't seem to care Americans are trapped behind enemy lines. And the worst part of this is it was all preventable. Doesn't care that our Afghan partners have been abandoned and they'll likely be murdered. Doesn't seem to care that 13 American heroes died because of his disastrous withdrawal. Over the weekend, after Joe checked his watch repeatedly during the dignified transfer, a relative of one of our fallen soldiers reportedly yelled across the tarmac at Joe, "I hope you burn in hell." Her feelings, her anger, her grief. You want to know why? Because it didn't need to happen. And she said Joe has blood on his hands. And now more Americans than that now see he abandoned our fellow Americans in Afghanistan. What are they going to do? Here with more, Fox and Friends weekend co-host Pete Hegseth, along with former CIA chief, station chief and Fox News contributor Dan Hoffman. We watched Operation Pineapple Express. We had the leader and founder of that on, Pete, last night. The fact that these retired military special op guys went in on their own, rescued as many as 700 people on their own, went behind enemy lines, and the French did it, and the Brits did it, and the Dutch did it, and we didn't do it, till the very last day, once or twice. That speaks volumes, doesn't it? Leaving Americans behind. What happened to leave nobody behind?
Sean, they're still doing it right now at this moment. I'm in touch with people still actively trying to fulfill the promise that Joe Biden abandoned. He looked into the camera and said, bottom line, we got 90% of Americans out. 90%? Was that the promise that you've made time and time again? And Sean, the new revelation tonight that you have rightfully emphasized is that Joe Biden knew. He had that conversation with the very flawed and soon-to-flee Afghan president, where it was understood that the perception or the reality needed to change. And you know what else really gets me? He waited 3 more weeks before Kabul fell to even have a conversation. So he was distracted, big shocker, and uninterested, and ultimately the assumptions he's telling us everyone believed he knew before his eyes. This was not an intelligence failure. This was a Joe Biden failure. He knew this could be a possibility, made all the wrong steps in the process, and as a result, relied upon the Taliban, left Americans behind, and those of us who serve there feel betrayed. You can't feel any other way. This is not how you finish an American mission. We have the capabilities. We decided not to use it, and the world is watching, Sean.
Pete hit on something, Dan, that I want to highlight here. Right? And my sources have been telling me the CIA left 6-7 weeks ago, and the intelligence was dead on accurate, and they communicated all of this to Joe Biden and the White House, and they did it loudly and they did it repeatedly, and they were ignored.
Yes.
I would bet everything I have that this leak conversation is because he's blaming everybody but himself, and they're not going to take the blame for his failure, which we now know from this Reuters tape. He knew it was a disaster in July, and he still did not, while we had control of Kabul, move up the withdrawal time. That's on him. Everybody could have been taken out by that timeline.
Sean, the key takeaway for me from that conversation between President Biden and President Ghani is this. President Biden was clearly aware of the very precarious situation, military situation in Afghanistan. That's the time to hold our military, hold the evacuation of our military forces, reconsider some of the evacuation of our troops, and step up the evacuation of our civilians. We should be thankful today, and we should be giving great tribute to the military and our State Department intelligence community for getting out as many Americans as we did. Frankly, 90%, given the situation they were in, defending themselves at the airport, they were on the X. They couldn't get off the X. They were under great pressure and great threat, and there was that attack that killed 13 of our brave servicemen and women. They're to be commended for doing so much in such a horrifically challenging situation. And the last point I'll make is we've withdrawn our intelligence capability and the military and State Department. That makes it extraordinarily difficult to get those Americans out and fulfill that promise that President Biden made.
And we have no leverage. He lied. We have none. Zero. Oh, we got 100 other countries that are joining with us to pressure them. They don't care. They're terrorists. All right, thank you both.
Resolution?
Yeah, go ahead. Pete,
Thanks,
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, you just put it up. Yes, they're very afraid of that UN resolution that we will drop on them as they're killing people for playing music and women for being women. Yeah, I'm sure everything will be all right.
All right, after the break, thank you both, Senator Lindsey Graham, and we'll speak to two Afghanistan veterans and a Gold Star wife. Her husband was killed in the line of duty. How are these families, how are these fighters feeling today? I think they're asking themselves, why? Why did we risk our lives? Why did we lose our family members? Why did we give our limbs for this? We'll continue.
The other part of the agreement was that you would work with the Afghan government to form a government under the Constitution of Afghanistan. What that map shows is that they were in gross violation of the agreement between Trump and the Taliban. So when President Biden says he was locked into getting out because of the Trump plan, he's again lying. And another thing he's lying about, if the war is over, why are we still using drones to kill people and talking about more drone killing in the future if there's no threat from Afghanistan? And let me say this about drones. If drones would stop ISIS from taking over Iraq and Syria, why didn't it work then? It didn't stop ISIS from taking over Iraq and Syria.
Should he be impeached? You talked about impeachment.
Yeah,
is this
totally
impeachable?
So let me say, yeah, I think so. I think it's dereliction of duty. He knew that we were going to leave Americans behind, and I think he lied to us because there's no way. I don't believe this 10% crap. I think there are hundreds, if not thousands, of Americans left behind, tens of thousands of Afghans. So the Biden administration is lying to us about the threats we face from Afghanistan, about what they knew and when they knew it, and they're trying to blame everybody but themselves. If you want to blame somebody, President Biden, look in the mirror.
Senator Graham, thank you. Now, last night we heard from two Gold Star fathers. They lost their hero Marine sons in last week's terror attack at Karzai International Airport in Kabul. The attack caused by Joe Biden's self-inflicted, reckless Afghan exit disaster. All preventable. All of this human suffering, all of this violence, the needless loss of life, it's all caused by Biden. Now we know he knew, even as he tries to blame everybody else except himself. Here with reaction, Fox News contributor Joey Jones and Nevada Senate candidate Sam Brown, who both served and were wounded in Afghanistan, along with Gold Star wife Jenny Taylor, her husband, Army Major Brent Taylor, killed in Afghanistan in 2018. Joey, let me start with you. In 2010, IED-related incident resulted in the loss of both your legs above the knee, severe damage to your right forearm, both wrists. How do you feel today?
Well, first, Sean, just let me say that whatever injuries I sustained are nothing compared to the pain that the Gold Star family's gone through. I've seen it firsthand. I haven't experienced it, thank God, and my heart goes out to all of them, the dozens that I know, and the 13 that were just created, and everyone that has lost a hero overseas. But what bothered me so much is, there's all these excuses that come up from Joe Biden checking his watch. Maybe he was looking at a rosary that was his son. Maybe this, maybe that. You shouldn't have to maybe. If you're the family of someone who died just days ago in an operation that much of the country thinks wasn't on the up and up, the intel wasn't correct, or the president made bad decisions, maybe as the president of the United States, you need to just be there and be in that moment and be there for them. And if it means that you're the verbal punching bag today, that's okay. I mean, heck, man, you just went through something that's nobody should go through, and you're going to say things and have emotions that may be different a week from now, and we all understand that. So I don't want to use the words of Gold Star families as some political punching bag, but I just wish Joe Biden had the wherewithal, as the President of the United States, to be there, be in the moment, and show them that respect. And if they say he didn't, I'll take their word for it and just say that we all deserve better.
Let me ask you, Sam Brown, you graduated from West Point. You got a great distinction. You became an airborne ranger. September 08, you were struck by an IED. It severely wounded you. A 3-year journey of rehabilitation and recovery. Your thoughts today? Do you have any regrets about serving the way this now has ended?
You know, Sean, I've got a message for the American people, and this is not just me. This is after talking to many other veterans who served there. Some of my own family members. I'm the one of 3 in my direct family who have served in Afghanistan. And there's 2 themes that's coming out from this. One is, most of us don't regret what we did there, because at the end of the day, we are confident in the help and the assistance and the security that we provided for the Afghans that we had care over at that time. And for whatever period of time that they had some shelter and security from the Taliban or other threats, that was worth something. And we feel good about that. But what we don't appreciate, and what Joe Biden has almost single-handedly, along with the top brass leadership out of DOD, has caused many of us to feel that we have been lied to over the years about our commitment to the Afghan people and to the mission there. And here's the really sad thing, and here's what America needs to know is, and Sean, I know you know this, many of those who serve in uniform come from multi-generational families. Here's the second thing that people are telling me today. We're done. Joe Biden has lost the trust and faith of those families, many families who have served for generations, that we would raise our right hand and be available at the direction of the Commander-in-Chief and do what our country asked us to do. And people are saying, we're done. My children, my grandchildren will not be a tool of elected and unelected officials, their priorities, their foreign policy objectives. We will not be tools for that. And that's a sad, sad indictment of where we're at in America when you have folks that are saying that. And so what I'm telling folks is that we need to make sure that we push back against these elected officials and that we demand accountability from our top brass out of DOD. People can hear my full statement on Joe Biden asking for his resignation on my website, CaptainSamBrown.com, and join me on this mission of bringing back some honor and integrity to our armed services.
Jenny Taylor, you're a Gold Star wife. You have 7 children. Your husband was killed November 3rd, 2018 in Afghanistan. He served with the Utah National Guard. You said, for those that say, was it worth it? You said, I don't think that for a second that it was a waste. But you also said that you've talked to many other Gold Star families, and it feels like every one of us is reliving this. 7 children will never see their dad. I can't imagine.
You know, Sean, I was listening to everything you're saying so far, and we're talking about 90% of the people getting evacuated, or we should go for 100%. Well, I've got one statistic for you. 100% of Gold Star kids don't get raised by that parent that's missing. 100% of Gold Star moms will never get to hug their son or daughter again. 100% of Gold Star spouses like me will spend the rest of our lives without our sweetheart. I will tell you what I will not wonder. I will never wonder if my husband died in vain or why he served or if it was worth it. I will never let myself get to the point where I think that was a waste or never should have happened. Do I like the way things have happened lately? Of course not. None of us approve of the current situation. But I will never question why my husband served, why the others that have died for the other wars, the other causes throughout America's history. We die because of what we believe in. We believe in these principles. We believe in hope. We believe in spreading humanity and opportunity around the world. My husband didn't just die to protect me and our 7 little babies. He died because he believed the Afghan people also deserved a chance. They deserved hope and opportunity, education and freedom. And I'll tell you something that I hope the American people realize. I hope this really sinks in. Men like my husband and the 13 who were killed last week and the thousands that have died in this 20-year war on terrorism, they died trying to make a difference. They died trying to make it better. They died trying to make it work. And the question I have for all of us now is, are we willing to live with that same dedication? Are we willing to live in a way that makes it worth it to them to honor the lives that they have given? Because again, 100% of Gold Star families have lost at least 90% of that chance. They've lost all of that opportunity to be with that loved one again for the rest of their mortal lives. That's a really heavy statistic.
Jenny, Sam, and Joey, there aren't enough words. You guys have been through so much. Very hard for people to relate to. But I can tell you this. I know I speak for myself, and I know I speak for this audience. I want to thank each and every one of you for all of your service and sad sacrifice and pain that you've all been through. I just want to say thank you. You are the people that make America great. You're the great Americans that we love and admire. We never leave Americans behind. Thank you for sharing your stories with the audience. God bless you all. We are in our prayers, all of you. Now, when we come back, disturbing video coming out of Afghanistan. We've got the exclusive tape next.